Oh, wow. So I guess we guys are live, right? Wow. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, Emmanuel, thank you very much as well. I know you were a part of this from some time. I was showing you some bits and bobs, and you were like, "Oh, this is looking cool," and I was like, "Damn, let's do this
Yeah,
stream."
no. Happy to be
We
here.
Yeah, we were like, well, me and Emmanuel, we do two things like on a regular basis. Sometimes we chat about art, and we play also StarCraft. So we're not good at StarCraft, so that's why we don't want to stream our StarCraft games. But we will be very happy to stream
Yeah, you're the
our
one that's
like
good. I'm not good.
no. Anyway, like guys, for those who don't know us, I will just quickly introduce myself, and Emmanuel, you can do the same. So my name is Jama. I work as a concept artist, art director at Lucasfilm. So in general, I do a lot of art stuff, and I really love it. So I guess that's all about me.
Yeah. Well, my name is Emmanuel, and I also do a lot of art stuff. I'm just a concept designer working in the film and game industry. That's it about me.
Awesome. Well, what today we want to talk with, show you and talk about is our project Big Medium Small. Obviously, Big Medium Small started by me and Oleg, a partner of mine, and later we had some Andre and Jocelyn joining us. It's and some other guys. So we kind of like growing at the moment. But what we wanted to do basically, we as artists working in this industry, we always felt like there's a lot of time going into finding like assets and building 3D and just making stuff from scratch. Because overall, like working as a concept designer in this industry, most of the time, what I'm asked to do is actually storytelling and design work. And when you have to build this foreground character for 2 days, it's not worth your time. So we basically started something we would love to use. That's why we were never passionate, like we were never worried about time and sort of what it would take to do it. We wanted to go and just create something that we, in the first place, we will be able to use in our own like sort of concept work and illustration work and so on. So that's why we first thing we released was medieval asset pack. We just loved that period of time. I think that was a perfect opportunity for us to finally travel around the UK where we both live, me and Oleg, and gain a little bit of weight because we were eating a lot of cheap fish and chips. I just realized how cheap fish and chips is out of London, right? That was a good discovery. So we did that, and then we decided to do our second pack, which was oh, by the way, you can find all that stuff. Obviously just to sort of visually. Let me just pull this up. If you go to our website, Big Medium Small, you can basically see everything we've got there so far. So we started. The second thing we started working on was uh, this pack with post-apocalyptic sort of designs. And why we picked up this one, because our core team is all based. I mean, we were all born in ex-Soviet Union, and once I read this really funny comment of someone saying, "Oh, you know what? Those post-Soviet guys, they don't need even look at the reference because they live that stuff, right?" And it really shows, like with post-apocalyptic stuff, it was all gray, green, like and stuff like that. We really liked and enjoyed it. And yeah, and then we started our next journey, which we like all of us, we were like strong fans of westerns and spaghetti westerns and just Wild West stuff. So we decided let's do it, and I think this is what is sort of very exciting about what we do. We just pick up the subjects we like, like, and I do believe it sort of shows because we pour our souls into it and just enjoy the whole process. So eating fish and chips, just reviving our post-Soviet memories, and now with the Wild West, which was very exciting because all of us, like I remember when I was a kid, I read a lot of books, but obviously I never been to America, and I was like, how can we create something legit, right, and authentic? And this was a big debate, and we wanted to go to the US to like proper Western like museums and sites, but obviously all that happened before COVID, right? So and then the timing kind of happened that we couldn't go anywhere. So we're like, oh my God, what can we do, right? Well, at least, guys, we have internet today. So we spend a lot of time like making our research and like trying to learn about the subject. So finally, we are there. Basically, we finished the pack, and we are very excited to share some stuff with you. So Yeah, I mean, I would love just to show you some. I've been showing this to Emmanuel, and he was like, "Oh, can you do that? Can you do this?" So it would be nice to revise that sort of stuff. And Emmanuel, if you have any sort of questions, just feel free to ask me and stuff like that. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, but also another thing that I realized, which we really deliberately wanted to do, wasn't just like releasing like some sort of assets or anything like that. We wanted to create collections, basically like giving people and artists opportunity to pick up a subject and create something within that subject, having all the assets they need, which means characters plus environments plus like photo packs, maybe some textures. So basically, I just know myself, like I most of my time is wasted by looking at different things, like looking for, right, I need a stone texture, I need this, and it's just I would love to have this one centralized library where I can go and basically find everything I need. And yeah, and basically let's dive into it straight away. I'm going to show you a couple of sort of images that we did for this pack. And obviously, I would love to show you this in real time in Blender because we spent so many debates like, how do we want this to be, right? Like, we want it to be with rig, without rig, and all that stuff. So, these are just some sort of images that I'm going to show you. And again, as I mentioned, like we started as a character sort of, I would say, specialist because we just like I personally myself, I love characters. I'm more on the drawing and painting side of it. Like I do like very like express like very sort of alive characters, and I always wanted to achieve that in 3D. But I have very difficult time with 3D because most of the time with rig and all that stuff, it becomes very technical. So everybody in the team hates me because I always was very nitpicky, like the way I want eyes to look, the way I want like fingers to look, and all the stuff. But at least I'm the hated person, and you guys will enjoy it in the end, hopefully. Yeah. So and then, but we also wanted to get into environment assets, and my idea was always that I want them to look photoreal. It's not about like, of course, we keep the texture quality and all that stuff, but I wanted to make sure that you drop them into your scene and you can zoom in and zoom out, and they still hold up and they look good at every angle. And again, like personally, my artistic and my sort of concept art background really helps me because like usually what I do, and again, my team hates that. They say like, don't do that, like because I squint my eyes, right? And if I start seeing repetition, they will like, how do you see repetition? I squint my eyes, right? It's all about squinting. So we've been squinting a lot, and at least I'm squinting a lot, so I've got all the wrinkles happening here. So, but it pays off. And again, once I showed you all this stuff in real time in Blender, I think it will make more sense. So we did include a lot of like environment pieces here as well. And unfortunately, I'm not sure why, but it's not scrolling. So let me just do it again.
So did you like work? Is this mainly for Blender, or how does that work?
No, it's a cross-platform. These are
Mm,
cross-platform assets. You can use them anywhere you want, basically. So we try to provide all the setups. It's a bit right now sort of like an impossible task to be able to deliver to every sort of software because there's just so many variants, like even if you think about Maya, right? There is like, I know with you, when you kind of you wanted to help us to make a promotional piece, I was like, guys, we have got Emmanuel, let's like prepare a Maya scene for him. So and obviously they were like, what, but which renderer, right? So it was
yeah.
Arnold we made it for, but you were on V-Ray, so it's like, no. So but we try to keep them very simple. I do believe it's not about, of course it's about, and we would love um, with our upcoming packs to give people different setups, but I also think it's about simplicity. Like once you
Mm,
get an asset and you have three textures and four textures, it's easier if you have an asset which is made out of like tons of different pieces, and it's just very difficult to work around that, and that's why we wanted to specifically sort of make sure it's very simple, but also it gives artists very unique possibilities, to sort of tweak things around. And actually, I think like this is a good timing. I can show you this Blender file that I have open here. So let me just pull it up over here. Uh, yeah, and this is basically the sort of like real-time version of the previous image that I was showing to you. And as you can see, what I was specifically saying about squinting my eyes, like it shows here because like first the textures look very unique, like even like the patches here and there, they look very uniformly distributed. And we just wanted to make sure like they not only work as a like a miniature or like as a distant shot, but also like you can zoom in and it still holds up, it's still. And I mean, this is real time. Obviously, if you render this in V-Ray and all cycles, it will look even better. But even for being real time, like we were just talking about this with Emmanuel. Like personally, myself, I've been testing out how far can I push it without painting over. Usually that's always the dilemma, isn't it? Like you kind of get away with certain things, but then you go, I'm gonna just paint it, right? But then I would
Yeah.
render stuff like this, and I was like, I'm not sure where to paint actually that because it
Well,
looks over.
it's funny that you say that because I actually had that thought. I was like, where am I? Like, there's so little I need to do that I was actually quite surprised, especially, the textures that weren't tiled and that
Yeah.
all that dirt stuff that I was dialing. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
know.
gotta say.
Well, again, I'm probably the most hateful person in the team, but we spent so much time. So one of the dilemmas here, like again, if we talk about more technical specs, was texturing. Like, I really kind of make sure, I really try to make sure that it looks decent from every angle. Of course, there are compromises, but I do think like, so if you take like basically two worlds, which one of them is photo scanning, right? And another one is making stuff by hand. Both of them have pros and cons, right? Photo scanning is great, but optimizing it and making it modular and also creating something that doesn't exist from in photo scanning is quite challenging, right? It is possible, but there are a lot of hurdles. With making stuff by hand, there is a tendency to look artificial because obviously the beauty of photo scans, they are natural, they are very chaotic and they are very sort of random. And so we tried to meet, like my goal was like make them look like photo scans. Of course, like these are not like photo scans 100%, but at least they're very close, the way we weather things and stuff like that. So those were like really, really like I would say like challenging times for us, especially this is the funny bit. Like we couldn't go to America, right? Like my idea was like just travel to America, find this Western site and take photos and photo scan and do this stuff. Obviously, COVID, like leave alone America, we couldn't go even to Scotland or somewhere. Maybe we could, I don't know. So what we ended up doing, our artist Alexander, he went to this Russian city to visit his, I bet it was his relatives or someone like that. And he found this little Russian huts which had like perfect textures that like they basically look like Wild West textures, So we ended up shortcutting there and we took all these textures. We did a lot of photo scans and used them as normal maps and all this stuff. So it was a very sort of a good, creative solution for not being able to travel. But then the second challenge I always had with buildings uh, was that you either have procedural texturing where it's very repetitive, or you have baked texture, which is great, but then you're limited in terms of how, like, even if you go 8K texture, which I never recommend to anyone, especially doing like concept art. Again, I'm always funneling stuff from concept art community. So if you guys are from 3D background, don't get me like directly, but I usually like limit myself around 4K, sometimes even 2K, because like normally I would have like 50 of these houses, and if I'm having like 8K texture, it just like goes crazy. So I wanted to make sure so we have a quality of a hand painted thing, but also we don't repeat out like have a repetitive texture, which always kills the sort of overall impression. So what we did here, and it's a nothing a new technology, I just we just wrapped around our heads how to use it here. So we're using trim sheets, which basically means we're using like this big 4K texture just for wood and just for some certain isolated elements. And then we're using second UV set to have dirt and all that stuff projected. So I will show you obviously live how it works. But this allows us to do, and especially it's very obvious when I zoom in like here. Look, this for example, like crate, it's a 4K texture just for this crate, or maybe 2K, if I'm probably 2K. And this is like the whole building and the quality. I mean, it's slightly blurrier, this one, just because it's a big building, right? But look like how it still holds up even if we zoom in. So that allowed us, like using trim sheets allowed us to do this sort of stuff very in a very sort of
That's
practical way.
pretty crazy.
Yeah, I know. And again, this guy, he saved us. Alexander, thank you very much again. He traveled to visit probably his granny or something like that, and he was able to take all this texture. So also this opens us a lot of different opportunities, which is basically we can change this stream sheet, which I'm not able to do right now just because it's going to take a bit long to allocate the files. But you can swap it to completely different. Like you want this to be burnt like house, right? You swap it to burn house texture, and it will look like it was burnt down, but then it will still maintain all the masks, which is basically where the trick is. So we're keeping our masks as a separate layer. And again, we're going to talk about cross-platform thing in a second, but right now, like everything here is set up for Blender. But as I was showing this to Emmanuel, and he said like this will be pretty straightforward to repeat in V-Ray or any other software because it's basically using just masks, and the way masks work, like for example, I've got over here, like we've got not only one mask, but we have multiple hand painted masks. So it's not procedural, like we literally like spend time making sure it's only in the corners and look like there are footsteps over here. So there is a lot of things that went into it. And you can control this mask. Like for example, I can change, and you see the way it gets more sandy in a way, and it gets like stronger sand and stuff like that. Again, this is just a sand example. This could be snow, and it's so easy to tweak. Like if you go over here, change this to sort of whitish color, and this becomes like snow covered thing.
I was completely blown away by this because I mean I know it's possible, but mm, it's just hard to find anything. Like there's now you can dial stuff, which is
Yeah.
not what you used to expect from a kid.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you very much. We again, I got the most hated person award in general. So I was like, we gotta make it work, And they were like, but we have like masks and stuff like that. I was like, well, we gotta do it because again, you want. Like I keep saying this, but I want to squint my eyes and be able to see this realistic sort of representation of the world. And the world is very random, Like there's dirt piling up here and there.
Yeah,
So it would be very difficult to do this procedurally.
yeah. Because
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
because normally we would just take I would just take a normal sort of kit that's like repetitively textured, and then in Photoshop put all what you're doing now in real
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
and it would still take a long time to make it look right. It never really looks perfect.
Mhm.
But
I
now the render is just it's done. Like you look
Oh
at it,
man,
it's really
Y
crazy.
if you're saying that, I can sleep very well tonight. Of course, after we play StarCraft, though. Okay, so yeah, we again these masks are very straightforward. Like I can actually isolate one of them, and again, it's not only like dirt mask on the. We have this really nice ground integration mask, but also we hand painted sort of. I think this is more like of a dirt mask. Yeah, like you see like you can go, and this is where I think you can stand out as an artist because you take something that other people buy as well potentially, but you can optimize it. So my goal was always how to you can make it personal, and texturing was the one was me. It wasn't about the building. I mean, I think like we did a great job with building itself, but it's more about texturing that makes it very individual looking and stuff like that. And you can see like I can scroll the slider here and it gets dirty, and I can even like just reverse this mask and it will look completely different, like with tons of different possibilities. So I think we've got three masks, and if I would isolate one of them just to show you how it looks like. So yeah, like so this is all hand painted in Substance Painter to make sure that you have this control over masking. So again, going back to your question, how we approach this? And we had a long debate about this, right? Because this is all Blender setup, and I was like, guys, there's not only Blender people out there, right? Blender is just one of the software. We got to make sure it works on close platforms. So basically, what we're offering in the pack, you can get this setups, which we call master files, where you have all the textures separately, and you can play with them and customize them as you want. But also we have baked version, which is where we kind of designed some buildings which we think are looking decent in terms of color and texture. You can just plug them in as FBX or Blender file. They have free texture, normal, diffuse, and roughness, and that's it. Obviously, the sacrifice there would be the slightly lower texture because it's sort of baking it on a 4K texture for overall building. But again, it's a trade-off, like usually when I work, what I try to tend to do, I sort of specify zones in my paint 3D. Like first zone would be where I would have all the high res geo, and as you fade away, like you can start using this sort of, they are not LODs in a sense, but it's basically like sacrificing the sort of quality as you go away, because you can have this thousands of this in one scene. Probably you can, but the baked ones you can have more basically, just because they're having baked texture and dealing with all those nodes over here. So yeah. So yeah, and now let's go to the geometry itself. Again, I'm again, they hated me a lot, the team, because I wanted to make sure it has a human touch, because a lot of times when we would do 3D, we get very repetitive and very sort of, because everything looks so great, you don't want to sort of destroy it, right? But if you look at real life as always has this sort of imperfections here and there. So we wanted to make sure we maintain this, and uh, I'm very proud of what we did here, and I probably could show you if I go to the light pass. Yeah, so if we eliminate the textures, you can clearly see that everything is slightly offset. Nothing is straight. Like these guys over here, they're repetitive, but some of them are like sort of like a little bit offset. Some of them more or less, and that gives you this. Yeah, this gives you this human touch. And look, even like with the textures, with the sort of wooden planks, we wanted to make sure it's not just like boom, 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 repetitive. So we cut them down, we offset them. It's really like a lot of handmade sort of adjustments and stuff like that. But I do think overall it's paid off. And this is probably, again, I'm one of those guys who goes aggressive on this sort of stuff, right? I was like, yeah, let's just make it super dirty. And they were like, no, 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 hold on. It's just like, maybe this guy's wealthy. He was maintaining his building very well.
Yeah.
So we didn't go too heavy on this one. But even,
You know,
yeah, go
when
ahead.
uh, a lot of times when I model or when I do my scenes, I have to manually go in there and make things, offset and skewed a little bit. And the funniest thing is when I went into this, I was like, well, I don't need to do anything. it,
Well,
it looks more natural,
yeah, we did all that work for you. And again, even at this stage, it's very customizable in terms of, like, let's say, like I can go in and let's say I want to sort of remove a couple of planks. Let's say this house went in some rough times, right? So I do that, and now all of a sudden I get like I can delete certain areas and stuff like that. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve. You can sort of give it different looks. I mean, I was deleting there, but you can actually do, like, let's say if you want, for example, to use this wooden plank to sort of like offset it and sort of create like almost the covered windows, right? So you do that, and all of a sudden you've got a brand new thing. And the good thing, because the textures are they're using cream sheet and the masks. Like, look, if I go back to the sort of shaded view, it still keeps the quality because I mean, sometimes you get this also obviously pre-made masks here and there, but it doesn't matter, like you can probably find a clean plank and just use it there. So it's very interesting. But actually, I would love you I would love to show you something. Obviously, I would say the next level from here, right? So I've got this little city that I pre-made just for this demo. It's a little bit bigger, obviously, but it just shows you a lot of different ideas how you can tackle it. And let me see if we can just preload some of these textures. So yeah, in our collection we have, I think, like, I don't remember exact number. I think like 18 buildings, but I will show you why the number is not important. Why we wanted to make sure all those buildings are very different, and we made a huge research diving into like what sort of buildings they had: bank and grocery shops, saloon, and I mean, as much as we can do online. Obviously, if we had a chance to go there and actually see the sites, it would be better. But we try to make sure these buildings, they have they all have different history in the background, because what I'm going to show you next, it's actually will make a lot of sense. But before we do that, I'll have like really quick Unreal tour for you here, so we can walk around in this ghost city, just look at the buildings and stuff like that. And like, can walk around here. Oh, actually, let's go over here. We've got this little barn here. Oh, where's the barn? Oh, damn! I deleted the barn. Anyway, but we can go. We can go over here. So hold on. I actually made this church. And actually, this is a very good example of what I was trying to say. This church is not included in the pack. And when I made this, the guys on the team were like, "Why are you making this? Everybody will keep asking about this church, and it's not in the pack." Uh, I think like I made it because I wanted to show the point. You can make all this stuff out of our existing assets, and I will show you in a second. But it looks like it's a pre-made church. Damn, goddamn it! I'm always keep like losing this cross. It was intended to be there. I'm not sure why it's not there. So let me just quickly fix that. I don't know. So where is the cross? Yeah, cross is here. Okay, just to make it as an authentic church, right? So the reason why I wanted to sort of show this is because, look, if I go over here, it's basically, it looks very unique, but it's pre-made out of our existing assets. What do I mean by that? I think we will figure that out in a second. So, like all this stuff, all the kind of boxes and sort of these things, and even like the interior. This church originally doesn't have this interior. We hopefully will do an extension because I know a lot of people would want to. We actually planning to have a couple of indoor sort of interiors because right now we have them, but they are not finished. So we will ship that as an extension. Uh, but the way we make them, and this is something I've been always using in my workflow, and that's why the way we build these buildings are very flexible to be able to do that, is this. So basically, if I go and, for example, pick any of these buildings, like let's say I like this one, right? Just for the sake of, for this demo, or maybe not, let's keep it actually. I want to create a unique sort of, even like unique assets. Like let's say I like this part, just this part. How can I make it unique, right? What I can do, so let's just like duplicate this building. And as you can see, they are very low poly, so they are very sort of optimized. So let's keep this one, and then we can, I'm using add-in, but you can do it without add-in by using like mirror modifiers and stuff like that. But what you can do, all of a sudden, you got a completely different element. And what is cool about this element, it's interactive. So I can like extrude it. Like I can even like, oh, this looks like a cool chimney. Oh no, this looks like a very cheap rent, right? So it's like 1 square meter rent, probably something you get in London these days. But it's very sort of cool that you can do this, you know, and all of a sudden from one little asset you can come up with all sort of different things, you know, like you can have, like let's say, I don't know what this is, but I can totally use this because I can go and like collapse all the modifiers, and now all of a sudden this becomes like a new asset. So I can position it where I want and just put it over here and rotate it and all that stuff. And now I didn't have it 5 seconds before, but now I have it as a separate element. And what is cool, I can keep going. I can click, do this, and now it becomes bigger. Again, I can do make it smaller, bigger. Again, merge it, and all of a sudden I'm coming up with all these different interesting assets, which is pretty interesting. I actually have this construction site, which I called. It's basically all of our buildings, but sort of separated into. And remember, I was telling you that we kind of made sure that all the wooden planks there could be separated, not in every asset. In some assets, to save like poly count, we made them hollow. But for example, barns and stuff like that, because you can go inside, we wanted to make sure they all have this sort of structure where you can extract any elements of those and then use that element. Like for example, this platform, right? I can go ahead and like duplicate this platform, and I can go and, for example, let's say this could become like a floor panel. Like 2 seconds ago, it was just the side of the building, but now all of a sudden it's like this platform that which I can use, and I can, for example, go and again use mirroring and sort of do this kind of stuff, right? And not only mirror, like you can use tons of different things. That's what makes, and I'm happy to see this sort of workflow in Unreal as well. I don't know if you guys seen the Quixel Mega Scans, which we love. They use sort of similar feature, but they only have band right now, which we also do have, but in Blender. But there's a lot of like different things. Like for example, let's pick up this asset over here. Normally we don't have this asset. I just made it out of barn or something like that. But now, let's say I want to go slightly a bit more creative with this one. I can do, for example, stuff like this. I can like apply lattice to it. and all of a sudden this becomes like sort of a tower or something like that, which gives it. And it's almost like Photoshop, Emmanuel. Like you do it lasso selection, and then you just transform
Yeah,
it
yeah.
and come up with like all these different cool things. I think you can even bend it. Let me try to do that. So we've got this little bend tool. Yeah, you can do stuff like this, so you can squash it. And this doesn't have enough polygons, so again, being a low poly geo, what you can do, you can go inside and like subdivide it, and then now if I go and bend it like this, so I can place my cursor somewhere here. Where's that band gizmo? Oh, it's so some reason. Yeah. Now I can do this kind of stuff. It's very cool. So basically, you can obviously this is not a good asset to show it, but even this, like 5 seconds before it was a completely different asset, right? But now it looks like this could be some design oriented, not only like Wild West stuff, but because in the end you can take this one. I think like, oh, this is a good asset, so I can go and, for example, apply like radial array to it. I do that. Oh yeah. So now all of a sudden I have this, see? And now I have this. So this could be, this started as a Wild West, but I think it could totally be anything. And because this sort of assets, they look, as I mentioned, they look quite realistic because of the texture variation and all that stuff. This definitely allows us step out of just this pre-made asset mentality. Like I often hear this when you make like a buy an asset pack, people say, "Oh, but you always end up doing the same things as others." No, well, they're like, you buy assets because you want to save time, because like specifically my work is not just rendering images, and as Emmanuel could confirm, we need to deal with a lot of design thinking, and this sort of tools, I do believe they allow you to do this. You can, as long as you sort of base is solid, which is in our case, we do believe that our sort of basic sort of initial idea is very strong. Not idea, the quality of the assets, but then the rest is just going creative, right? Like I can start duplicating this. Oops. In Blender, you don't press Ctrl Z, as we know. Like you just delete it and do it again. Yeah, like look, I can do something like this, which is completely different asset. And then again, I can go and apply another lattice to it, and I can go like and do something like this. This is totally could be some sort of a weird Wild West twist with going into alien structures. So why not? And it's all started as a part of a ugly barn that we had. So yeah, I think like this is obviously just sort of scratching the surface. I do believe there's a lot you can do, and uh, also we have a lot of set dressing elements, which I don't have in this file, but I can probably show them to you as JPEGs.
Yeah, there's a
So
ton of props. I really enjoyed digging into that as well.
mhm. Yeah, like we have, where is it? Damn, there's so many renders. So let me just pull it up for you here. Sorry, guys. So yeah, this is the sort of stuff we have. We have a lot of like billboards and this stuff, some lampposts. Yeah, like just mixing those together. And again, you can pretty much use the same technique that I used with mirroring on all of these assets because they are very low poly. They're very well optimized.
You could just make a scene out of those tents. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, that you can just scatter them around and do something very, very cool with it. Cool. But yeah, then let's go back to where we started from, the characters, right? This obviously we do believe we leveled up. We raised the bar for ourselves in environment assets. And this is just beginning. I teased Emmanuel with some new stuff we're doing, and I think you guys will love it. Obviously, I'll be showing that in some other streams. If we go back to characters, again with characters, our goal was always to make them believable as well, just like with the building assets. But the very challenging part with this one for us was we always done characters that had helmets on or like gas masks, right? We never actually lifted the sort of the cover, the face cover. And when we decided to do Wild West, obviously first we wanted, oh, maybe they use this face cover bandanas and stuff like that. That would be massive cheat, isn't it? Like you want to show them as they are. And we've started getting into scanning 3D people and 3D assets like some time ago. And I'm pretty sure you've seen some of that stuff on my Instagram and Facebook. And then again, COVID happened, right? Like you can't even like invite your relatives to home, so let alone like professionally getting people in and scanning. So we were like, damn, this is getting very stressful. So, but again, being children of ex-Soviet Union, where everything was made from crap materials, we decided we will do it again, right? So we actually use the hybrid technique where we would scan people, but not all of them. But then we also would use like face builder add-on for Blender to project photos. And basically, these are all our friends. This is a friend of mine, like the villain guy. Obviously, he's like a friendliest person. And when he saw this, he was like, "I'm not that ugly, right?" I was like, "Damn, this is art, right? We had to do this." And then we had my nephew, he had a dark hair as well. That was very like interesting because in the final sort of, yeah, the sheriff one, this is actually my nephew. He does look remotely a little bit like that guy, but obviously nothing like this close to this. So we had to change the eye color and mustache and all this stuff. So again, I wanted always to make sure they look alive. It's still very tricky. Like you just make like slightly wrong turn in the eyelids, and it just looks very uncanny valley. But still, we do believe, especially like the biggest struggle for me usually when I'm having character setups is the fingers and stuff like that. They always look very stiff, like because fingers are very difficult. So you
Yeah.
kind of need to make them gentle and stuff like that. So I do believe and I think like I was the first customer for this pack. I was like almost testing out and see how they work, and I was like really pleased because like for example we've got this character Anna, and I was like, damn, like look at her hands, like look really alive and very gentle as well, and also obviously being a photo scan sort of base here, it just looks very decent in terms of how the textures look like and the nails and all this stuff. So another character which I love at most would be a second female character, which we have Rachel here. And again, Rachel, I wanted Rachel to be really badass. Anna is more like feminine, and Rachel is more like a warrior. She does cool things and do a lot of badass stuff. So when I was sort of posing her, I realized, damn, she's so good. Because the way like even if you look at her eyes, like like the wrinkles on the eyes and all that stuff. Actually, I better show you this in real time. So let me kick off this render. Open this Blender file here. I'm not doing any renders. It's all real time today. Oh
It's
no.
funny because the scene is actually light enough that I put everything into one scene.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say these are the most amazing optimized assets. That wasn't the goal for us.
No, but it
Uh,
was pretty good. I mean,
I,
it was
well,
actually very good.
we think in general we think that, I mean, with new graphic cards, obviously right now they're very limited. They have a very limited stock, but obviously new graphic cards plus Unreal 5 going into more handling polycount, high polycounts. I don't think it will be an issue, especially for like artists who use this as a base to paint over and stuff like that. Obviously, we right now these assets are fully optimized to be used in Unreal, and I think I can play a little video where we have Unreal setup where you can just do pretty much what I did in Blender. I'm not that fluent in Unreal. That's why I'm demoing this in what do you call it in Blender. But yeah, so this is our other character Rachel. And again, like look at this barn. This barn doesn't exist. I just built it out of like scrap materials because again, what you can do, you can cut this barns like in half and have this sort of stuff, which is really interesting. Damn, I did that, but now I need to press Control Z, which I don't want to do. That's why. Emmanuel, Blender 101. You do this like this, right? You just bring it back. No fancy Control Zing. So, okay. Now let's have a look at Rachel here. So Rachel actually has a full rig, and we also added eye rig as well because again, with previous packs we had masks on, so you don't need to see eyes. But obviously with this, we really needed eyes, and that's why we have, for example, the eye rig. And again, it's very straightforward. You go to rig and you select like your, like let's say I want to control eyes, right? And you go like this. Let me see individual origins, and then yeah, you just like move the eyes. Super cool. Again, you see like one wrong sort of angle, and she just doesn't look alive, isn't it? But it doesn't look right. But that's the beauty of sort of. I think that's what is exciting about being artists. You know, you got to figure out how to make that look good. And I think like the angle I found again, she it's debatable if she looks that real or not, but I do think it's a good setup. And also, like, look, even with eyes, we made them properly. Like, there is an iris, and it actually goes inside, and then there is a transparent layer on top, so which kind of shows in the renders very well. Otherwise, like, if we just make one texture, it looks like a plastic eye, which is obviously not a nice thing. And again, everything else you can control it. You can basically go and like move the hands and stuff like that. But what is also important that for all of our characters, and this is one of the terrible things that we are not good at, is actually showing off this stuff. We have a pre-made poses for all of our characters. Obviously, to make them interactive, you need to use Blender, but also we have baked poses for people who use Cinema 4D, Maya, and all other stuff. But in Blender, actually, if you're using Blender, and it probably would be better if I pull up another file here and show you basically the characters.
Yeah, because when I looked at my file, the horse had all the poses and all that too.
Yeah. But also in Blender, so this is sort of the master file. Let's see if it actually opens. Yeah. I know, Emmanuel, as much as I don't like Control Z in Blender, I love the way it opens so fast, you know, like you can literally like
No,
open.
right.
So we've got this girl, you see, and if you go to the pose editor or whatever it's called over here, we've got all these pre-made poses. So you can actually click on, like, for example, this, and she goes into different poses. So these are all handmade by Andre, our great character artist. So yeah, if you want something like this, and let's say you're building a scene for yourself and you need a bunch of sort of poses, what you basically do, you just duplicate this one, and then you go and just like collapse the modifiers. You know, you can use that. You can, I think you can press Control A, visual geometry to mesh. Yeah, and then I think you can press Alt P to unparent, and she will be baked. So there's the rig is not working anymore. So she is basically, you can move her around as you want. But for hero characters, let's say you like this pose as a base, but you still want to fine tune it, you can always do that, right? So it's just we made those so to make your life easier. But if you want a completely new pose, so you can either modify the existing one or basically use one of this. And actually, what Andre showed me, but I never tried it. But look, let me see if it works. He told me, like, if you select one specific set of bones and you want just to repose them, then you have to select them, and then you have to see if it actually works. Oh yeah. So you see, that pose, preset pose, just works for the selected sort of bone. It doesn't act on all of the
Wow.
all of the rig.
Cool.
It,
So you
it,
can mix stuff too.
yeah. So basically, you can take like hand position from pose 6 and mix it with hand position from pose 5, right? I don't think it will. Sometimes it probably will like distort the rig if the character is moving too much. But like I would say, like, let's try this. It actually works. See, he just should.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, well, we are terrible about exposing this stuff. We had it in post-apocalyptic pack as well, but yeah, we're just a bunch of ex-Soviet people, very terrible with marketing. So feel our pain. Yeah, and all of this, we like characters, like all of them, like villain has the same thing, and so on. So, okay, now let's talk about some addition that we spent so much time to this pack. Was we finally made a horse. You know, all those guys who wanted this horse for their stickman or the medieval knight in front of their beautiful landscape, your prayers has been answered, right? Like, we made it, but what is more important, we made it properly. Like, I wouldn't say it's the best horse on I would say it's the best horse on the market. I will be very confident
Pretty
about that.
damn good. I really love this
And you
horse.
know why it's the best horse? Because we've got this BMS stamp on her bump. So we're gonna put like this quality control in every sort of asset we make. So cool. But again, it's a great horse, I would say. Jokes apart, it's all BPR textured. It's low poly, and it has tons of different poses, and the rig is fantastic. Andre, I mean, I'm not sure if Andre is listening to this, but you are awesome, Andre. So Andre made like a full on rig for like even for mouth, so you can actually control leaps. Why this is important? Because horses are quite uh artistic, in the way they're quite animated. Even the horses like struggling or running or galloping and stuff like that. Being able to do that is really awesome. And obviously we also can control eyes as well. I think one of them controls eyes and the other one controls eyelids, so you can do this, the horse is sleeping or struggling and stuff like that. Super cool. And again, just like with anything else, everything we do comes with the rig, with the pre-post stuff. So I gotta select everything and then click on this. So we've got this poses. It's a very solid base for you to start from. And again, yeah, the question that you asked me, Emmanuel, obviously this is all Blender, but there are a lot of artists who don't use Blender, how they would use it. Obviously, the rig is sort of cross-platform. It's not perfect because of skinning. Sometimes it differs from a software to software. But we export FBXs with the rig, so you can like take this to the Cinema 4D and actually make some good, decent renders with it. Yeah. Actually, Christoph, who is an owner of RD Textures, is a friend of ours, and he made like a fantastic renders with this horse. I would love to show them here. So Christoph actually like was very kind enough to provide us with some textures from his amazing library. So this, it's not included yet, but it will be shipped very soon as an extension to this pack. It's basically like this horse sort of marks on the floor, but on the ground. But also he did a couple of test renders, and you can see like, yeah, all the muscles. And I believe this is Cinema 4D. I'm not sure which render it is, but yeah. And also look at the ground. This is 3D. This is mind blowing. He did this, and I couldn't believe it's actually 3D. Yeah, and the horse, like, just this sort of detail level, it has muscles and everything is, and on top of it, it's fully rigged. So I wouldn't be shying away from saying we are very proud of this horse. Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
we will try to cross sort of this horse will be included in other packs we're working on. Like, let's say we're doing a Maya pack or like Crusaders or whatever it is, we can definitely include that later on, and we will improve it. We want to make the actually with horse, I'm not sure if we have it now, but actually let me see. I'm pretty sure we do. So if you go to we are in shading, but this is a very weird setup here. I believe I need to do this. Okay, so basically with horse, we have different setups for this horse, and also we also have like dirt masks as well, which we can control, just pretty much like what we did with the, what do you call it, with buildings, right? So over here you can control how much you want like dirt and how high you want this dirt to be. It's just very fun. I mean, horse, normally you do horses as hero element, right? Like, let's say you're doing like a hero character, you want to optimize it a little bit. But also, if you want to make like a crowd, like a bunch of horses, right? You want them to be different from each other, and we actually hand painted all those textures for you. So if only I can go back. Keep forgetting how to go back from this group view. Oh no! And I'm also the person who makes Blender tutorials, and I don't know how to go back. Yeah, I know how to go back. There should be like a. Let me see. Yeah, that should be okay. Is it this one? Yeah, that's the one. Okay, so but basically, like, we can, if I connect this one over here, over here. Yeah, now all of a sudden you have a different color. Just takes some time to load. So basically, we pre-made. I don't know how many, but we pre-made like different
Oh,
type of
you can
horses.
change the color of
Yes,
the
and
horse as well,
it's
the pattern.
yeah, and it's just not just hue change. That would be just lame. Andre like hand painted like some of the some of them have like white areas there. Some of them have black areas. They're just very different. So multiply that on different poses, you can create like an army of people, and they will all have different horses. Which again goes back to your sort of observation, where you don't need to paint over it. Normally the way we do it, we just go like render one horse as an instance, and then we start like color tweaking it if needed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
having this basically gives you very nice ability to sort of just swap these textures. And again, all these textures, they are exported for, if you are a Cinema 4D user, you have this library and you can just connect it to your nodes. It's just the nodes would be different, but the textures are very simple. It's always three textures: diffuse, roughness, and normal map, and it should look very identical to this. So yeah, horses here. Oh, I actually wanted you to show, when I mentioned the crowd, I have another file which I have open here. I was like, okay, I've got this beast machine. I got to try out how many horses can I have, right? And yeah, I had a bunch of horses, and if you can see here, it's pretty damn good, right? And I can fly around with my, so it's like doesn't end. So it's pretty good setup. And this is me just using like 3 horses. And again, I like, you see, they just like slightly different in terms of shading, but I would say if you have 5 and you randomize them, you would probably won't be able to see the repetition at all. And these are just 2 characters. I would imagine if we plug in all characters, it will look even better. So yeah. And this is where I will wrap it up. I've been talking a lot. We have another thing that we think is super important to have a complete collection, which is just crowd people. Like the characters that I showed you, they were like hero characters. They have rig and they are like very well optimized and all that stuff. But obviously, they could be heavy if you want to populate the whole city with them, just because they have more control, rig, and all that stuff. So we wanted to make sure we have like Wild West crowd people, and this is like an example of them. But then there is actually a file where I can just open you and show you. We have, again, a bunch of them. They all like photo scan / handmade, so they look pretty decent, and they're very low poly and very nicely optimized as well. So here we go. So takes time to load the textures. Yeah, we just have like generic types of like slightly buffier ones, slightly. We have drunk guy over here.
Yeah, this was awesome because I love the drunk guy.
Yeah, and they are very simple. They are one mesh. There's no rig. You can just drag and drop, and they work fine. Like, and you can have millions of them. So these are the guys that I use. So we pre-made some sitting poses for horses as well. So you can multiply them and create like an army of those. Same with these guys. Obviously, once we wrapped it up, someone was like, guys, we don't have any female characters. So we apologize. This is just a bunch of dudes from ex-Soviet Union just making man characters, but we will have an extension with some female characters, because female characters are a little bit more difficult in terms of like the skirts they have and all that stuff. So we will make sure we will have a couple, but we have
when
2
you,
female characters in
when
our
you,
hero characters.
sorry, when you say extension, what do you mean by that?
We will just add sort of additional elements that we wanted to do, and we will
Oh,
just add to this pack later on. Yeah, we
oh,
always
okay.
do that because we have so many. Like, for example, the apocalyptic pack we did, we were working on this helicopter model, which I think was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
But we felt like it's an optional thing, and we added that later on. So, of course, if you guys purchase this one, you will get the extension for free, basically. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and but also these guys, they come in A poses as well, so you can drop them to mix some. I obviously, to save your time, I have a couple of videos here to sort of show you exactly how it's very straightforward, basically, with Mixamo. If you guys ever use Mixamo, this is just some stuff from Andre showing the horse. I showed you that. Same with characters. Oh, also our villain guys has also some additional eye control because we wanted him to squint and do like angry faces and stuff like that. But then with Mixamo, it's very straightforward. You can drop any of our characters to Mixamo if you want some additional poses or some like additional library of stuff. It will just calculate all those things, and then they will come in textured, very nice, and then you can
That's
export them.
awesome, man.
Yeah, same with the generic characters. We have them in A poses because, like, if you drop this guy into Mixamo, obviously it won't be able to do that. But we have them in A poses, so you can like take them to Mixamo and stuff. Yeah, and a final note here, I would say we have this all of these assets compatible with Unreal and Unity. As you can see here, the layering, mask, and trim sheets, they all work here. So you just, if your tool of choice is Unreal, you can drag and drop them to Unreal and do
Well, that's
pretty much
awesome.
what. And again, Unreal is something that is getting more and more widely used in concept art community and in our community in general. So hopefully that will definitely help. And we will be focusing on that more and more in our upcoming packs, basically. I think that's it from me. And then, oh man, I'm always so excited about this stuff. Sorry guys if I bored you, but we spend a lot of time making sure they look awesome and they help you to unleash your creative juices. So the moment we started like putting it together, I was talking with Emmanuel and I was like, Emmanuel, can you actually, would you love to test it out? And he was like, well, Emmanuel just a nice person. He always says yes. So he was like, yeah, yeah, sure. So I would love to open your piece so you can
Sure,
talk
sure.
us through. And the only thing I gotta find it. So I got it. Hmm.
But I mean, just to preface it,
Just give me a
while you find it, I went to
yeah.
try to learn Unreal, sorry, Blender in a very
Blender.
basic
I know.
a weekend, three, four
The,
days, and I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, in terms of learning it. But
yeah.
I think I learned it enough, um, to
Man,
get something out.
when you told me, yeah, when you told me you were like, look, I think I'll have to do this in Blender. I was like, are you sure? Like, because I would hesitate to do this like a, in anything, any kind of work if I'm not familiar with the software. But you did it great. I think that's
So on this image,
it's
I
amazing.
tried to use the stuff as I didn't paint at all over it, because I just wanted to see what could be achieved with the kit, and then I could say that,
Mhm.
there's so much you can do. I mean, obviously, partly is limited by my Blender knowledge, so I was moving quite slowly, but I really didn't have to do much. I mean, this is just,
Yeah.
the rendering and then some
Mhm.
post, grading and
Yeah.
stuff, and dust.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's cool.
Um,
That's cool.
it was just easy
Well,
to
that
make.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's basically sort of proves the point that I was trying to sort of explain. I want to make sure it's more like of a drag and drop thing because like working in this industry, it could be very stressful when you actually building things and it becomes very overwhelming when you have to deal with a lot of tech problems as well. Like if you have like I always kept saying to my team, like, let's keep the textures look awesome, but also simple. And obviously, this is where I got awarded as a bad person, right? Because like they were like, it's impossible. I was like, no, it is possible. Let's find a way, And I think we did a good job with that. Same with characters. As much as I love the rig, sometimes rigs feel overwhelming because it's very complex. Like you got to move by hand. So why don't we do pre-made sort of crowd guys, like so you just scatter. I bet you just placed this guy over there and did nothing to it, right? Oh,
Yeah,
this guy
and
or
he
that guy.
fits. And then there's the drunk guy on the left, and
Oh,
everything
this
just.
is the guy, right?
Yeah, there's just so many. I mean, and I really could have done a lot more, if it wasn't
Yeah,
my limitations with Blender.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
would just figured if I really knew Blender well,
Mhm.
I could do scenes like this very, very quickly. It's the thing,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
fast.
Well,
Um,
man, hats off. Thank you very much for even doing this. This is our first test run, so we unleashing this to the community starting from it's already being released, right? So feel free to get it. Actually, I do think we have a discount code as well for specifically for this session. So if you guys want to go to our website and I think the code is Wild West 30, so you get 30% off on this set. And I
is that
can't wait to see
available
what.
right now?
Yes, it's just for today. It's sort of launch thing we're doing, so we can at least help you somehow. Those, but again, this took us like enormous amount of time and I think we put like every time I say that, but it's legit every time. When post-apocalyptic stuff came out, we put our past into it because we lived like in Soviet Union and we saw that sort of very grimy stuff that we wanted to reflect in our post-apocalyptic world. And with this one, we really wanted to reflect our artistic view it's either environments or characters. It's always, we wanted to make sure we create something that looks alive and not photoreal, but in a sense believable, you know. And again, some of them look pretty photoreal, like that horse looks fantastic, but
It's a great horse. Yeah.
also we wanted to make sure it is basically simple as well. Like you drag and drop it with minimal adjustments and you can use it. So I can't wait what you can guys do with it. So I literally like doing these images was super fun for me. I enjoyed so much. This villain guy, man, he's so angry. Like you can like animate his eyes and he looks like a bad guy, obviously. Obviously all the buildings and again all the specs and information you can find on our website. But so this is where we at right now. And we are cooking actually something new, and I think this is where we're gonna raise the bar again. And hopefully that will be released very soon. But we are really looking forward to share with you some new stuff. And again, thank you so much for being supportive. I like again a lot of like support I get is from my friends because this takes a lot to make, and it's always scary to release something to the public. It's always like making a movie, right? You don't know what people will think about it. But like Emmanuel, thank you very much, especially like seeing what you think about it was very important. And I showed
Yeah,
this
it
to
was a pleasure. I
I
can't wait to see what people make with it.
yeah, exactly. I showed this to John Park yesterday, and he was like, "Damn, this is looking awesome, John. Thank you very much as well." So again, because of you guys, it gives us additional boost. It is not easy, trust me. We spent so much time trying to find the solutions, how to make it work and stuff like that. But I do believe it paid off in the end. So thank you very much for that. I'm not sure if you guys have any questions. Of course, we have a chat, but I've been speaking nonstop, so I didn't have a chance to check that out. But I have this word, this document here where I supposed to see questions, but hold on. Let me see. Oh, there was just one question. Actually, will the models? Oh no, hold on. Will the models come with pre-made node group? Uh, yeah, if you work in Blender, the stuff that I showed you is already made for you. So all you need to do is just in our folder structure we have a separate blend folder. So you just open that blend file, and I think regardless what version of Blender you're using, you will have all the nodes set up, and basically you can start playing with the things that I was showing, right? With the where's this Blender file? Oh, I think I closed Blender. Anyway, so you can, yes, that's true. You can start playing with the nodes, and you don't need to make anything from scratch. They all pre-made for you. Uh, another question is, are there any interiors to the buildings or just exteriors? Right now, we don't have any interiors, like proper interiors, even though we made sure they don't look flat, like hollow, right? So for example, if you look at some of the renders that I did, they all have curtains. So some of the windows don't have curtains, but most of them, when you look from outside, it looks like there's something inside. But what we're planning to do, and this is something I mentioned, we will be doing an extension pack where we are planning to include at least a couple of what do you call them, interiors. Because right now I can show you over here. So let me see. What's the best way to do this? Give me a second, guys. Blender. Uh, mhm. Yeah, I'm not sure when the person asking the question joined the stream, but I was actually showing that in you can make interiors out of our existing models, but we will make it like for you. We will actually pre-make some of this interiors. For example, this church environment interior, it is not in the pack. You have the church, but it's hollow inside. But all this stuff I was able to make from other sort of buildings because they have some of them like barns, for example. Oh, actually, this is not true. Some of our assets have interiors like the barn stuff. Uh, they obviously because they are open and you can walk inside. You see there is like some sort of interiors inside. Yeah, but we would definitely we want to make a saloon and we want to make that church, and that's something that will come with extension pack. So how many hero characters are there? 5 hero characters, and I think there's a dozen of generic crowd people as well in the pack, which makes like quite a lot of characters basically. Okay. Awesome. Well, I guess there are no questions. Well, Emmanuel, I wanted to thank you again very much for doing this.
Yes, my pleasure.
This has been, again, as I say, I like being an artist is challenging, isn't it? Like all it needs is just someone saying, "Hey, dude, you're doing good," you know. So that's why, guys, I do appreciate when uh, like, we sort of get this sort of support from you and from fellow
No,
artists
I
or
mean,
friends.
I have to say it was a pleasure working with it, and honestly, this is the kind of thing I was looking for. You know, just the able to dial that, change it to snow, and I actually thought about making my thing snow, but I mean, I just didn't have enough time. But it was
Yeah,
just so fun to play around with, and everything
mhm,
just looked really very believable, and
cool.
not just a tiled thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back in there and play with it some more.
Oh
Um,
man,
so
thank you
it,
so much.
I had a blast. So I got to say, just have a good
Cool.
time playing with it.
Dude, I'm pretty sure I'm happy to hear this, but obviously the team behind it. It's not me. Like sometimes I see this, oh, it's Jama's pack. No, it's not just mine. I would say I'm a good mastermind behind a lot of things, but it's a team effort. Oleg, Jocelyn, uh, Andre, Alexander, Daniel. We have a bunch of other guys. So it's a team effort. We tried to make something really cool, and I can't wait to
You
see.
did it.
Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, again, just a reminder, the pack is out on their bigmediumsmall.com. Very simple address. And you can use coupon WildWest30 to get a 30% discount just today. And I'm actually more interested in seeing what you can create it because as I showed you in a lot of things, it's very customizable. And like the stuff the sci-fi sort of take I had on the Wild West asset was very something that excites me. Like the guys in the team always say, like, "Man, how do you come up with these like weird shapes and stuff like that?" Because I work on Star Wars, like I better do that, right? So, and I think we made a pack that really deserves to be tested out, and I can't wait what you guys can come up with it. Awesome, fantastic, guys! Thank you very much, and I talk to you soon at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome, cool.